What is the number one thing that you would like to see out of the Trump administration this year? What action?
So I'm informed in that answer by what our customers want. So
what do they want?
we serve the biggest issues that our customers have had, both small business and consumers over the last few years, has been taxes and the healthcare system. And I'm hopeful that the administration will be able to address both those issues.
Let's talk about that hope, because we saw what happened with healthcare reform. We'll see if it happens the second time around, if they can get it through. But on tax reform, you know, you have Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin coming out this week and telling the Financial Times that August deadline that they had set does not look realistic. What makes you hopeful, or are you hopeful that the Trump administration will get comprehensive tax reform done in 2017? Not just tax cuts, but actual reform.
Yeah, I think actually you hit the nail on the head. It's more important to get tax reform, from my perspective, than tax cuts. Tax cuts would be great. Who wants to pay more taxes? Nobody does, right? But would it be more important to make sure that we get tax reform? You know, I look at the OECD statistics that show us that in the U.S. we're 31 out of 35. Just think about that for a minute.
You're talking about corporate tax rates.
Yeah. No, just the whole tax system.
Okay.
Right? We're losing jobs, and companies are moving overseas because we've found ourselves, because we haven't addressed it for 30 years.
It's hard.
That we're number 31.
I mean,
who wants to be number 31? I don't.
So there's a reason it hasn't happened since 1986, comprehensive tax reform. Does it happen? If you were a betting man and you put your money on it, does it happen this year?
I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but I believe it's going to happen.
In this administration?
Yes.
In this 4 years?
Yeah.
All right, so do you know Gary Cohn?
I do.
Okay, so Gary Cohn, former president of Goldman Sachs, now seeming to have a rising influence in the West Wing. That's what all the chatter is right now, seeming to really have the president's ear. Do you think that Gary Cohn is influencing the president in a positive way? You know the man, right?
I do. I hope Gary Cohn is influencing. I've known Gary for probably 10 or 15 years. We were competitors when he was at Goldman Sachs. I think he did a great job there. I think he's a very thoughtful and intelligent guy, and I think that he's providing a lot of real value for the administration.
Because he said something interesting. I read a Washington Post quoting him as saying, you know, that in meetings he says something to the effect of, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I just like to get things done. Is that Gary Cohn to you?
The Gary Cohn that I know is one that has gotten things done. I have never talked to him about whether he's a Democrat or a Republican.
Candidate Trump promised to eliminate the national debt in 8 years, you know, $19 trillion. His budget director, Mick Mulvaney, recently called that hyperbole. Do you think that this president can live up to the economic promises that he has made on jobs, creating 25 million jobs, on eliminating the debt? Do you think he can live up to those promises?
I hope so.
Final question, Glass-Steagall. This is something you guys care about, and the potential for breaking up the big banks. As a candidate, you know that Trump ran on breaking up the big banks. Actually, the 2016 Republican platform called for bringing back Glass-Steagall. What are your thoughts on that? Does it concern you? What would it mean for Wells?
So I don't think it's a good economic policy to break up the big banks. I think that would be a mistake. I think you can look at other countries around the world that have larger banks and their economies perform quite well. That's not to say that we shouldn't have good regulation, right? As it relates to Glass-Steagall, when people use that phrase today, I think they mean a lot of different things. Based on the changes that I've seen in the industry since the Great Recession, I don't think there's a need for a return to Glass-Steagall.
Let's take the broad definition as breaking up the functions of a bank servicing Wall Street and Main Street.
Right. So I think when I'm out with our customers, let's take a large corporate customer today, and I call on a lot of our customers, they value that they can call up Wells Fargo and they can get credit from us, they can get treasury management services, they can get advice in terms of how they might raise equity or debt or buy a company. They value that very comprehensive relationship. I think done correctly, it works really, really well. We need to make sure that we have the right regulations in place to prevent it from being done incorrectly.
So when we hear Gary Cohn say, and I'm quoting him on Bloomberg, if we come up with the 21st century modern Glass-Steagall we may be able to tailor regulation for different aspects of the financial markets and different aspects of the financial institutions, and that would allow banks to get lending more aggressively to small and medium-sized companies. It's a big part of your business, lending to those companies. Is he right? Is he wrong?
Well, as I said, I've known Gary for a long time. I think he's terrific. I don't necessarily agree with everything he said.